You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. We have spent the lion's share of this week talking about Jayden Daniels, and why not? Jayden Daniels is the best player in college football. His star continues to rise. His Heisman odds grow shorter. There are draft analysts talking more and more about the sensational LSU quarterback who is the best player in college football right now. And as a result, we are not giving as much attention to someone who deserves it as well, and that is LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers. If you haven't checked, Malik Nabers presently, as we all know, is leading the country in receiving yards with 1,284 receiving yards through 12 games. He's also got 72 receptions. He is absolutely in fuego right now, averaging just under 18 yards a catch and 128.4 yards per game. Malik Nabers is having a for the ages season, one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen at LSU and in SEC history. But right now, Malik Nabers has the second best Heisman odds. Malik Nabers has the second best Biletnikoff odds behind only Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State. Now, Malik Nabers met with reporters on Tuesday after practice, and he was asked point blank about the Biletnikoff and if that was a goal. Here's what he said.
Especially, after seeing Jamar win that, his last season here, it was always a receiver goal when I came to LSU to also win the Biletnikoff.
Okay. So, point blank, Malik Nabers saying it was a goal coming to LSU to win the Biletnikoff. You had two winners in LSU history, Josh Reed in 2001, Jamar Chase 2019, and hopefully Malik Nabers here in 2023, but he's got work to do. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the current odds-on favorite at minus 320. Malik Nabers is next at plus 250. So, if you're not familiar with how odds work, just very quickly, minus 320 means you'd have to bet $320 to win 100. Plus 250 means if you bet 100 and win, you win $250. So, it's a pretty significant, pretty heavy favorite right now for Marvin Harrison. The kind of crazy thing about it, though, is when you look at the two so far through 10 games, it's not really close. Malik Nabers has 72 catches, Marvin Harrison Jr. 59. So Nabers has 13 more receptions than Harrison Jr. On receiving yards, Malik Nabers 1,284, Harrison 1,063. So he's about 221 yards. So 13 catches and 221 yards more than Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, on touchdowns, Harrison's got 12, Nabers has 10. Yards per catch, they're dead even. Harrison's at 18, Malik is at 17.8. They're virtually even. And so you might look at it and say, well, Nabers is leading the nation in receiving. If over the next 2 weeks he continues to put up stats at this level, he should win the Biletnikoff. Not exactly. And here's what kind of sucks about it. Take the last 10 Biletnikoff Award winners. Of the last 10 Biletnikoff Award winners, only 4 led the nation in receiving. Devontae Smith in 2020, Jamar Chase in 2019, James Washington from Oklahoma State back in 2017, and Brandon Cooks back in 2013. That's it. It's more likely for the winner of the Biletnikoff not to be the nation's leading receiver. Like Jordan Addison 2 years ago was 4th in the country in receiving yards. Jerry Jeudy back in 2018 won the Biletnikoff as the nation's 10th leading receiver. D.D. Westbrook in 2016 was 6th. Corey Coleman from Baylor back in 2015 was 9th. So just being atop the national receiving yards leaderboard doesn't equate to winning the Biletnikoff. And That's unfortunate because that's working against Malik Nabers. And what Marvin Harrison Jr. has going for him are two things. Number one, it's name recognition. It's Marvin Harrison's kid. Everyone who watches football has watched Marvin Harrison play forever, and we got to watch Marvin Harrison Jr. in the Ohio State, that great Rose Bowl, and he and that whole offense, Jackson Smith and Jigba carried it through to this year. Jackson Smith and Jigba had the amazing Rose Bowl, and we remember that. We forget Marvin Harrison got hurt in that game, still had an amazing game before he got hurt. So he had the name recognition. He already, from just literally his name, is his dad's name, who's a Hall of Famer. And then he had the name recognition from having a great career up until this point, and he's also playing in meaningful games. So Ohio State right now is undefeated, and they're ranked number 2 in the country, and they've got 2 games left at home against Minnesota, and then, of course, the game against Michigan. For Malik Nabers to win the Heisman, 2 things have to happen. Number 1, over the next 2 weeks, Malik Nabers needs to continue to stat compile. He's got to maintain his lead atop the national receiving yards leaderboard and just ball out against Georgia State and against A&M. Like, LSU has to be very intentional about forcing the football to Malik Nabers so he goes off. And Marvin Harrison needs to get shut down. This week against Minnesota, next week in the game against Michigan at the Big House. I mean, if Marvin Harrison is non-existent the next 2 weeks and Nabers just starts to pull away and boat race him, that's how you could see that gap close. It may not be enough to overtake the name recognition and brand recognition that Marvin Harrison Jr. already has, but Malik Nabers is certainly deserving of the award. But so much goes into this aside from just who's putting up the best numbers in a given season. I'll remind you, Josh Reed in 2001, he set an SEC record with 145 yards per game that year. He only 12 games, remember, for Josh Reed counted because the bowl game didn't count. They played 11 regular season games. They beat Tennessee in the SEC championship game, which is 12, and then they played the bowl game where he went off for over 200 yards against Illinois. That didn't count. So Josh Reed's number actually would be higher than the 145. But the 12 games that he played, 145 receiving yards per game, that's still an SEC record. Jamar Chase in 2019 only played in 14 games. He missed the Northwestern State game. So Josh Reed in 2019 in 14 games played averaged 127 yards per game. Right now, Malik Nabers is at 128.4. So Malik Nabers is barely, but he is nosing past that incredible. Think about how great Jamar Chase was that year, and Nabers is outpacing him right now. Now, Nabers isn't going to play in 15 games, so the cumulative sum of his numbers aren't going to reach what Jamar Chase did. But the averages will. That's pretty incredible in and of itself. Let's hope Malik Nabers really stat pads the next 2 weeks, and hope Marvin Harrison gets shut down over the next 2 weeks as well. You may have your 3rd Biletnikoff Award winner. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.